Alright, so with the two daggers in his eyes, he is now like roaring in pain. He's reeling in pain. And he is now going to, let me just give me a second. Sorry. Let me just check one last thing real quick. Which one was it that I wanted? Where did it go? It's fine, it's whatever. Alright. The man is now, with all the pain he's in, he is clearly dying. And he's going to lift Adaman up in one of his claws now. Don't worry, Adaman, you're not going to actually die here, but... So I'm not going to have him roll to grapple you, but he's going to lift Adaman up in his massive claws. He's going to hold Adaman up. And he's going to turn to where he thinks all of you are, but it's a little... He clearly can't see where any of you are. And he's going to say, "You fools cannot kill me. I am the slayer of the demon lords. I am king of the nine hells, conqueror of the abyss. I am Thrulik, the blood-born king, and I will destroy you all and watch your souls burn for 10 eternities." And as he's saying that, you can just feel, you feel his claw just begin tightening around you as he begins trying to crush you in his claw. Your very armor beginning to like crumble under the sheer force of his grip. And as he's saying that, the shadows all around him are just swirling angrily. This storm of like reddish, blackish shadows that is just emanating all around him, all across this entire temple. It's like this mist of blood that's just feeding off of him, like just flooding the entire temple. You can see it just pouring from the walls, from the altar, everywhere. Just this aura of blood-red shadows. And as he lifts Adaman up a little bit higher, you see him lift up the orb as well, as the orb begins to glow. And you see Adaman begin to glow a little bit too. And so he's about to cast a spell on Adaman. And just as the orb begins like pulsating in his hand, as the spell is about to actually trigger, that's when you see, just from right behind him, the dagger stab right into his throat, at the base of his throat. And everything stops again for a moment. All the shadows, they just almost like freeze where they are. And the orb, the glow dies down. And Adaman, you feel his grip loosen on you. As he's like, finally, the dagger pulls out of his throat. And Adaman, he lets you go. He drops you where you are. Just, you collapse beside him. And the orb itself, his grip on the orb releases as well, as it just rolls out of his hand onto the floor and it just collapses with a loud thunk. It doesn't roll away, it just collapses where it is. And Thrulik falls. His body goes face forward onto his altar, the altar he had built for himself. His body just collapsing on top of it. Two of his claws just draped over the side of it. It's just so massive they just reach to the other side and just hanging off the edge of his own altar. His black blood now pouring onto it. And standing behind him, there is now a vampire. But it's not Etcher. Oserin is standing behind him, having been the one to come up behind him and to stab him. And now it is Oserin who now is lifting himself up into the air. That same, like, black shadow that you saw when Etcher had killed Relief. He is now being surrounded by that aura of black shadow, as he takes that giant winged form that Etcher had taken in the Starfall Sisters temple. And as he now calls out to the crowd of Kuo-toa, who are now rushing for, congregating around him. And Oserin calls out to the entire crowd of Kuo-toa, saying, I am the Blood Cloud. Look upon the dead demon and see what happens to false gods who take my name. And with that, the shadows dissipate from the temple, and Oserin is gone. Thrulik is dead, and all of you are now standing around the altar, around his dead body, with a crowd of Kuo-toa watching in shock, in horror, in a religious crisis. As now 2/3 of the trio of gods that they worshipped has been slain by the true Blood Cloud, the title that they had given to their gods.